All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case. Over on Rumble, of course. We've got to unpause and repause. That's what I'm talking about. That we don't have to look at ourselves in triplicate. We be clanking. We be clanking. Straight from Jam and Bean. Nice smooth coffee. It's exactly what I needed. Had to brew 2 pots this morning, actually, because I wanted more of it. That's a big problem. I'm going to run out. Oh my god. By the way, I've got a special treat for you who have tuned into the pumpkin spice coffee for the very first time. Now, my niece actually bought this. I guess she's into pumpkin spice or something. She said it wasn't sweet enough. That it was unsweetened or something like that. So we're going to be testing that out. This is from Stewart's Shops, by the way. This is a local brand, mainly in New York, extends south also into Vermont and New Hampshire. And so Stewart's Shops, pumpkin spice cold brew coffee. We're going to see about whether it's actually sweet or not. Ugh, that is disgustingly sweet to my taste. Fuck that. I'm gonna drink the rest of it. That'll get dumped out. And it does have a good pumpkin-y aftertaste, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing. Sort of like tastes like a liquefied pumpkin pie more than anything else. Jeffsky, audio sucks. Just a sec. That may be better. Jesus H. Christ. Is that better? Bog, Oregon Trail. Better, says Bonnie. Okay. You gotta realize it's not on my end. It's usually on StreamYard's end. No, it's not better. Are we really gonna have this fucking problem again? Because literally, I'm ready to jump off a building or something like that with this shit. Fuck. Let me exit the call and then come back in and see if it is. Okay, we'll see if that helped. Yeah, StreamYard is beginning to piss me off a little bit, actually. Daryl Coleman, Sticks, per your video this morning, I wanted to let you know your tips as a content creator also fall under the new law, 25K deduction as long as your total income doesn't exceed 150K. Yeah, no, I saw that. I was very, very happy about that. So, yeah, it looks like I'm going to save a huge amount of money on taxes, actually, through the future. Which is good. Let's get to the news, shall we? And also we'll be talking about, of course, our sponsors, because you get that meat and coffee and tea and stuff up in you. Trump says Chicago will find out why it's called the Department of War ahead of planned crackdown. And he said, I love the smell of deportation in the morning. And clearly this is meant to be, comedic in nature. But people who don't like Donald Trump, of course, are not going to construe it that way. They're going to assume that he intends to actually wage war on a city in the United States. That's not actually going to happen. But there is going to be an invasion of people that are actually dedicated to upholding the rule of law. Oh my God, Chicago will never be the same. Why this is a bad thing, I don't understand. Krassenstein was rambling at J.D. Vance earlier. J.D. Vance said, killing... Well, I'll get to that later. But he got owned in a big way. How a top-secret SEAL Team 6 mission into North Korea fell apart. Apparently, this is something that wasn't talked about originally. It was classified. And they've declassified some documents. And it shows that the United States actually attempted to infiltrate the DPRK back in, I believe it was 2019, if I remember correctly. Yeah, early in 2019. And attempted to plant monitoring devices in order to listen in on Kim Jong-un. It didn't go over so well. This is actually a loss for Trump, by the way. I'm sure liberals are going to talk a big thing about this and make it into more than it actually is. Didn't lead to war, didn't lead to any lack of rapprochement or anything like that, but they're definitely going to be talking about this quite frequently. That is a guarantee. Reef madness, a baseless coral panic. It turns out that the Great Barrier Reef actually is growing larger. We were told that it would be bleached out, not exist anymore. The big problem with no tax on tips. Now, I did a one-off video this morning on the subject, but the hypocrisy and the absolute idiocy of the left on this issue, for both pragmatic and ethical purposes, is so sheer, I had to cover it a second time, so we'll be doing that. America first. Rubio and Trump just drew a red line for narco-terrorists. This is, again, related to the Trendiaragua ship getting blown out of the ocean. And then Antarctic lake microbes have flexible survival strategies. Yeah, with new genetic testing, they've been able to sequence more genomes. And keeping in mind that these species have basically evolved in complete isolation to the outside world. Originally, they thought that a lot of these microorganisms simply came up from outside waters. It turns out that may not actually be the case. That's not actually the case. Some of them have evolved for millions and millions of years in the absence of any real outside intrusion. This being the case, it could pose problems health-wise because we're not necessarily resistant to any pathogens that may be down there. Could be a problem in the future. Copium poppies, sticks, check your DMs. Zin X is engaging in differential enforcement on use of the word, the F word, the other one. Black females can say the word, while the rest of us get visibility limited. Came with receipts. I did see that. Anyways, derp. We're gonna derp out. Grandpa grills Santa Maria barbecue grills. Do you have hairy legs? Normal levels of hair on my legs, I suppose. Yeah, close to it at least. Yeah, let's get to our sponsors first, though, before we get into the news. We've got a fairly packed news day today, which is always good when that's one of your main jobs. And then later, I can write more books. It's amazing. I live a wonderful life. First off, we have cultivated-mind.com, where you can get mushroom pills, of course. I take 1 or 2 of them every morning. This morning I took 2. I took the brain squared one here, I think. I think this was the one that I took. They also have doggo treats, so if your doggo is goofy, you can always give them some Cultivated Mind doggo snacks, and they're in demand because they're tasty. They also smell good, unlike most dog snacks. Most of them have that weird, like, farmhouse smell. These ones are better, I would say. We have BiltongUSA.com, the land of meat. Anton is moving to a new location currently as we speak, and he can supply you with Wagyu, Cabanassi, Angus, bison, venison, all sorts of stuff. Also, anytime that he is mentioned, bovite must be consumed. Bovite is the South African version of what many of you would call Marmite or Vegemite. It is superior to both. It's not that I don't like Marmite or Vegemite on some toast once in a while, but the bovite, yeah. You can use it in soup, too. It's beefy. And we also have Stick, Sex, and Hammer mugs, tumblers, and shirts available. Then we have jamandbean.com, who supplied this delicious coffee. Bowl of right coffee and mushroom pills. That's all you need. Jam and Bean can also hook you up with various teas as well. The Yunnan Jig is my favorite. It's basically the standard Chinese restaurant black tea, but it's like the better version of it. Like, it's actually fresh and tastes stronger and stuff like that. So if you like that flavor, you need to get a bunch of it. Like, I wish I had an entire box just full of Yunnan Jig, honestly. I would gladly accept it if it was offered. Salty Reese's Cup. Arr. What's a pirate's favorite letter? Most people say R, but it's really C. R, Maki. Copium poppies. Smoke both right from a crack pipe. No, I don't think that I'll do that. I already snorted the Bry Rub there. You know, the biltong seasoning. And then got a nosebleed as a result of it. Giving people things to clip and put on their shows. Humble meme farmer, stop shilling and get to the news. I will. We shall. Skippy, Jeet Right is poo and stagnant water in a jar. I don't know if that's some sort of joke or not. There's something called Jeet Right? That would be hilarious. Anyway, we'll get to the news. Trump says Chicago will find out why it's called the Department of War ahead of planned crackdown. I am very, very happy about this. I love the smell of deportations in the morning, he says. Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War. Trump signed an executive order Friday to rebrand the Pentagon as the Department of War. Now, I believe that to officially change the name, you need an act of Congress. But it's not likely they'll stand in his way. I mean, that's the original designation for the department to begin with. And some people had expressed concern about relabeling it as Department of Defense and having all of these sort of sub-agencies, basically, because they're going to compete for logistic resources, they're going to compete for money, etc. It makes more sense to be like, we're either going all in, or we're not going in at all. This makes sense. That's a sensible policy. Do not start a war. Do not engage in war unless you have to. If you do have to, unleash every possible onslaught that you can and wipe out your enemy. That's what the Department of War should be about. It shouldn't be the Department of Defense. Ooh, taking up a defensive strategy. Yeah, we're defending ourselves against our enemies. How do you do that? By waging war. Don't wage it unless you have to. If you have to, do it well. That worked for the United States for most of its history. It wasn't until we started politicizing war and making our military a joke more recently with Joe Biden and his, woke bullshit. It wasn't until more recently that really things began to fall apart. For instance, you look at Korea. Why did we? Well, we didn't technically lose the Korean War, but we certainly didn't, have an astounding victory. Why? Because the branches of the military badly coordinated and under-equipped were outclassed by some of the weapons that were being fielded against them. So it made it very difficult. It was several years were spent trying to develop new weapon systems in order to compensate, leading to effectively a stalemate. Vietnam, same thing. We had the firepower. We had the manpower. We had the logistic capability. But we also had a massive military bureaucracy breathing down everyone's necks and making people play by rules that the other side was not willing to play by. Thus, they lost. Vietnam, by the way, hardcore, they also beat China twice around the same time. They forced them out. The Chinese came in with hundreds of thousands of soldiers, an enormous amount of armor and air support and everything else, and got beaten back on 2 different occasions, actually. Then they beat the shit out of Pol Pot, their fellow communist, which was recognized as the legitimate leader of Cambodia by the United States back in the 70s, I will note, which is a dark spot on our history. We should have sided with the goddamn Viet Cong at that point. Less murderous than Pol Pot. I mean, that can be said about anyone. It's like, basically like, hey, you want Joseph Stalin to run your country or Pol Pot? I think I'll take Stalin, actually, honestly. We should not have done that. That was very, very funny. Let's see. Mike the Wop. Clank Tarl went on a hike this morning from 5:30 to 9:15. Some good mushroom sightings. Yeah, I went on a hike earlier actually too this morning. It was perfect weather for it. The weather right now is literally the perfection of weather that you can get this time of year. Gray 999. Will RFK autism report prove autism is nanotech? I believe that it's linked to Tylenol usage, actually. I saw a story about that the other day. I was going to report on it, but I didn't have room in the docket. Yeah, apparently Tylenol is linked, if it's used by pregnant women, to not only autism, but also folic acid reduction for spinal growth. And so they're trying to warn women away from using it during pregnancy. Yeah, it was interesting. We're getting all sorts of medical reports at this point that would be considered unorthodox maybe 10 years ago. With again, RFK Jr. in his particular role doing a great job so far, which is why people are so pissed at him. He's doing a great job of exposing some of these bullshit scams, really, that the pharmaceutical industry has been heaping on us. And the funny thing is, now you've got people on the left who railed against the pharmaceutical industries defending them. I couldn't believe it. Mike the Wop, do something different with your audio? Seems different. No, I don't think so. I'm still using the Yeti mic. I mean, I won't be able to tell until I review my own live stream. That's the problem. Green Text Pro, you may have fucked a penguin and not even known it. It's rather fascinating. Yeah, that was, that YouTube poop was very, very funny. Lord of the Ree, J.D. Vance is a gay op manufactured by that F-word, Peter Thiel. Now, I think that he goes beyond that. Speaking of J.D. Vance, here's what he posted earlier. Killing cartel members who poison our fellow citizens is the highest and best use of our military. Brian Krassenstein decided to very unwisely wade into the conversation. Killing the citizens of another nation who are civilians without any due process is called a war crime, which, by the way, is actually false. J.D. Vance replied, I don't give a shit what you call it. And I find that refreshing. It's nice to have a vice president who says, I don't give a fuck what you think. I'm going to do it anyway. By the way, I would point out that J.D. Vance wasn't the one that actually coordinated the strike. This would have come from the highest level, which would be Donald Trump. I support the strike. The only legitimate use outside of outright warfare, we're being invaded, we're defending a very close ally from a physical invasion, something like that. The only legitimate use of our Navy, really, is to guard shipping lanes. That was literally the concept of having a strong Navy was conceived of by the Founding Fathers. A strong Navy, and then the Marines, which were the first technical branch of the U.S. military overall anyway, to guard them at port, to guard the ships and so forth, to provide land resources when necessary. This was the point of the Navy and the Marines. There was no air travel back then. They didn't have planes, so Air Force, that comes later. There was no incepted U.S. Army. The U.S. Army was basically conscripted militia. They were private citizens that would be called up in time of need and preferably voluntarily decided to serve in the U.S. Armed Forces. Sometimes it was involuntary, leading to draft riots in New York and Gangs of New York, good movie, by the way, and things of that nature. But the Navy and Marines were constitutionally inscribed. That was the whole point. Hey, we want to trade freely. And the first military action the United States, once it became sovereign, involved itself in war against pirates in North Africa, actually, that were hazarding shipping and trafficking people, stealing them away, making them slaves and stuff like that. That was the first major military action that the United States ever involved itself in. It was maritime more than anything else. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. You've probably heard that little ditty. There's a reason for that. That was the whole point. The United States military effectively was meant to be well-armed private citizens able to be called up for land, and then a naval force, which can't be maintained by any Johnny-come-lately, guarded by Marines. That was supposed to be the only real standing force in the U.S. military arsenal. Now, of course, today we have to have air power and things like that. This is a legitimate use of U.S. military power. I would much rather Donald Trump focus on bullseyeing cartel ships, which the other country will not even claim as its own, because then it would be an admission that they were allowing them to involve themselves with these activities, than bombing some random, sandlot nation out in the Middle East for absolutely no reason. We can get our own energy. We don't need to involve ourselves in that. The National Razor, good morning from the borderlands. Good morning to you as well. Viking Woman 1988, hello, listening at work at S&W. Smith & Wesson, nice. That's what I'm talking about. Gray 999, does that mean Tylenol is worse than ivermectin? So it seems, my friend, so it seems. It's causing like birth defects and shit. Christopher Buczak, how do you feel about foreign workers in the United States? I don't have any problem with people from other countries. As I pointed out, both of the people that I married, of course, were not from the United States. That being said, there have to be limitations. If a person simply comes into if they come into the country legally, I don't give a shit. Immigrate if you want. Just work, do your thing, leave other people alone. Don't, involve yourself in crime or anything like that. No problem. I have no problem with immigrants. If you illegally immigrate to the country and you're working, paying taxes, doing nothing else wrong, you have a family and stuff like that, I would overlook it at the moment. I would do what Donald Trump is doing. Focus on cartel members and things like that. Somebody is involved with some other form of crime, and then ICE, which is flanking the local law enforcement or the staties or whatever it happens to be, they get involved, they process the person, they're like, oh, this person's not legally in the country. And they were also dealing cocaine. Or they were also doing some other crime. Something meaningful. I don't give a shit if they're jaywalking or they sped, 5 miles an hour over the speed limit or something like that. But if it's at least a reasonably significant crime, kick them out. That's what you need to do. You got to prioritize. Lemon curd zero. Haha, I never liked Tylenol. Always tasted toxic. I agree with you. Stick with basic aspirin made from birch bark as nature intended. I use ibuprofen if I need it. I can't use Tylenol. It makes me see spots, actually. It makes me feel like shit. Makes me feel like a pile of shit. So yeah, J.D. Vance owned Krassenstein. Krassenstein seems to be too ignorant to understand that he got owned. Funny thing is, the Krassensteins are actually some of the more intelligent, liberal, shill commentators. Like, they know what they're doing. They got banned years ago on Twitter because they were botting. They were quite clearly botting Donald Trump's posts. They can't really do that anymore because he mainly posts on Truth Social, and then it gets replicated on Twitter. Since they can't do that, they just shill anything else that's at hand. And it's really, really sad and pathetic, but at the very least, they're conversational. I've talked to Brian Krassenstein several times. For instance, there was that one incident. There was the conversation between the two of them, Brian and Ed Krassenstein, they're brothers. They were, having drinks and they were talking about posting online and stuff, and people took it out of context and presented it as though it was, evidence that they were shilling. Now they are, but that particular clip actually was not evidence of that. They were having a more full conversation and people edited it selectively. And Brian Krassenstein actually messaged me on Twitter telling me about the situation. Then I looked into the full context and I actually made a follow-up video because I'm actually honest, unlike many political commentators. and acknowledging the fact that, oh, I was wrong, and, I still don't like their ideology or anything like that, but that I was wrong at the time. I think I was the only one that was actually communicative with them on that particular issue. But it's really funny. The Krassensteins are amusing, at the very least. At the very least, there's an amusement value. So that puts them at the top 10% of left-wing commentators right there, which is hysterical. I mean, it's a low bar we're talking about, admittedly, but at the very least, there is some degree of talent there. Sorry, wrong. Caught a live stream. Do you think we could instill fear in our enemies by invoking deities like Vance and Yawgmoth, or cause hilarious confusion? Why is it wrong for a politician to like something? Yeah, I think that we've already struck fear into the hearts of our enemies at this point. Because the Trump administration, the actual adults are back in charge, instead of the short bus riding slow adults under the Biden administration. So I have a feeling that people are more receptive to engaging in meaningful diplomacy and trade deals and things like that, as opposed to what we had before. I think it's an improvement. I don't even think that most liberals disagree with that. They just won't admit it publicly. Our maritime resources should be going towards keeping shipping lanes open. We should release a maritime manifesto. The United States should say, look, we're not trying to go to war with anyone's country, or any non-governmental group, for that matter. Leave our ships alone and leave our allies' ships alone. And leave them unmolested. That's literally the only thing that we care about. We want to be able to sell you shit. We're trying to do that, but certain groups are making it more and more difficult. King of Biltong is here. Hello, Anton. Whenever you arrive, we must engage in a clanker tradition. Oh, right, yummy. More than just yummy. It has a very slight, almost celery-like bite to it. Like a snap to it, if that makes sense. Haha, yeah, Anton, it is a very happy start to the week. Today has been a very, very good day so far. And I have a feeling it's going to be a very, very good afternoon, because I'm going to sit my ass down and, write books and stuff. Bob Ross, haha. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, other species lay eggs, so technically the egg. Where do you delineate what a chicken is? Darth Jar Jar Binks. Did bro just lick Vegemite off his fingers? I'll do that too. No, that was Bovrite. This is Vegemite. I prefer the South African Bovrite over the others. Marmite and Vegemite are okay. Vegemite's more thick. Like this, typically you would put it on toast. Marmite is more gelatinous and has a weird aftertaste, kind of. Yeah, I would say the South Africans do it best, and then the Australians, and then the British. Sorry, British people. I'm sorry, but I can't side with Marmite on this one. I just can't. John Hoyle. Is that like Australian peanut butter? Sort of. Because they brew so much, they have a lot of yeast leftovers, and so they process them into Vegemite. And in Britain, you get Marmite. And in South Africa, you get Bovrite. There's a lot of cattle there, so there's it's got a beef bouillon flavor. It's rather salty. It's really great in a soup. Copium poppies. Now you gotta snort biltong powder, not the rub, so Anton can watch. I don't know where it is. I think it's in the bedroom somewhere. I'll do that at some point. Cygnus Rosinati. The only boat he goes on is a restaurant boat in New Orleans. He is generally a land pirate larper. Oh no, I've been out at sea several times. I've been out on Lake Champlain as well several times. I've been on the Natchez, I think, 4 times. I like being on boats. I think that they're so fucking cool. It doesn't matter what kind of boat it is. I tried, the last time I was in New Orleans, I tried, there was a French naval ship actually docked there, and you could take a full tour. And I really, really wanted to take that tour. But then, when we got there, unfortunately, you had to schedule in advance. You had to, like, make an appointment for a specific time you were going to tour the boat. And so I didn't get a chance to go on the French naval vessel. And I believe it was a helicopter carrier, actually. And there was a U.S. vessel right next to it. I think that gave tours too, but again, you had to schedule beforehand. Copium poppies, missed a couple. Oh, I missed a couple of yours, chats. Oh, hashtag trains penguinism. Yeah, if you go to the Clanker website, poop.clanker.net, I believe it was. I think it was poop.clanker.net. Let me consult. Yeah, oh, you want to see a funny video of me? I did post a link on Twitter, but I'll give you the no, that's not what I want. All right. Yeah, I just want to get this to you because it's so funny. Poop.clankers.net. Yeah, if you go there, there's a video of me that's been heavily remixed, so I'm talking about like penguin penis and donkey dicks and stuff like that. I like that shit. I love it when people make crazy shit about me. Rabbit. In the bedroom you say? Lol, meat rub. Yes, it's always a possibility, just saying. Just a sec. Oh, there we go. Reef madness, a baseless coral panic. The Great Barrier shrank over the last year, but was bigger than ever in 2024. Yes, they've been cooking the books with regards to the Great Barrier Reef. Now, I believe in true environmentalism. I tasked people this morning, and I'm tasking all of you. Today, I want you to pick up a few pieces of trash that you see and put them in a waste paper basket. Well, waste bin. I want you to consider planting a tree or something like that. Do something that's actually environmentally friendly, as opposed to all the bullshit that, paying more taxes, carbon fees, and stuff like that. It's not going to clean up the world. It's a bunch of bullshit. I want you to engage in actual environmentalism. One of the biggest things that fake environmentalists have peddled, other than, climate change and stuff like that, oh my god, oil is going to run out, but it's also going to kill us all, and stupid shit like that. One of the major things they talk about is like aquatic life, specifically the Great Barrier Reef around Australia. And it's portioned off into sectors. What they did is, instead of releasing information with regards to all sectors, they decided to parse it up, making it impossible for anyone to actually observe the data properly because you didn't have the complete data. It wasn't the same as before. Personally, I think it would be more fair and honest if they were to do both. Okay, so Sector 1 decreased by 8%, Sector 2 increased by 8%, something like that. But here's the overall. And the reason why is because Australia is enormous. It's a continent, not just an island. And it has an enormous reef system around it, the Great Barrier Reef. It makes more sense to, because of weather patterns and things like that, and the flow of water, the flow of nutrients and stuff, of course, you're going to get a decrease in one area and an increase in another, potentially. This makes sense, because if the flow is going in the right direction, sectors 3 and 4 here are getting extra nutrients, and the water temperature is right, and everything's fine. But sector 7 over there is, it's having a little bit of a problem. This is totally normal, and we only have a few decades of actual total data with regards to the reef's health. So saying that human activity has depleted the reef and is responsible for a bunch of coral getting bleached out and dying is not upheld by any mainstream scientific conjecture at all. Actually, what it is it's held up by a bunch of political conjecture more than anything else. Well, if we don't all go vegan, live in the pod, eat the bugs, and they're not necessarily vegan, but I guess that doesn't count according to Klaus Schwab. And if the little people don't downgrade their lifestyle, the Great Barrier Reef will die, the elephants will go extinct, the rhinos will go extinct, the rainforests will fall to the axe, burn to the ground, and they won't exist anymore. You'll all be miserable, like every vestige of nature in the entire world will somehow magically go away. This is not borne out by scientific reality. If you look into these studies, and I recommend reading the actual studies, not just the analysis here. It's more topical. If you look into the actual studies, you'll find none of these doomsday scenarios really are real. Is the white rhino going to go extinct? Yeah. And that's really, really sad. Will it completely depreciate the area in which it was once prevalent? No, it's not going to do anything. It means absolutely nothing. Other rhinos can be introduced. Maybe you can get some white rhinos going with those fetuses that you've stored in cold storage, but it's not likely that it's going to work. They'll probably just go extinct. Since there are only 2 of them left, I would assume that by now their marginal appearance within that ecosystem is not particularly important. Seems to be otherwise doing generally fine. With regards to the Great Barrier Reef, nobody wants to see that eliminated. No reasonable person wouldn't appreciate the beauty of the Great Barrier Reef. There's some crazy shit down there, fucking brain coral and all sorts of things. Coral is actually underrated. It's pretty cool when you think about it. I have a chunk of black coral, actually, that I bought many years ago. I don't know where it is, though. I would love to show it off. I'd love to show off the remnant mineral and bone collection that I've got. It'd be pretty funny. So I want to protect the Great Barrier Reef, too. I don't want people dropping shit in the water and poisoning the coral and dumping toxic waste or anything like that. But human activity has had a relatively limited impact on the Great Barrier Reef, or so it seems, according to this new study. And that's good, actually. I would think that people would take this as good news. Hey, the Great Barrier Reef is not disappearing. Our human technology and activity is not actually destroying it. Well, that's not a bad thing. Unless you happen to want more taxes for so-called green energy and things of that nature. I would think that the outpouring of toxic waste from China and India would be more of a hazard to the Great Barrier Reef than anything that the Australians are doing. And just look at Steve Irwin. They're pretty environmentally minded. Like real conservationism. Humble meme farmer. If anything, the lack of rhinos and tigers will crash the Chinese economy and make them go extinct. A noble sacrifice, I would say. Yeah, if you want to look at the top contenders for nations that absorb nearly extinct species and exploit them, China would be number 1 by far. Tiger bones are ground up and they're used in various, homeopathic medicines. Rhino horn is also highly valued. Elephant tusks, also. If it's endangered, it's probably special and therefore medicinal, seems to be the ethos in some countries in the world. Of course, in other countries, like the United States, we realize just because it's endangered does not mean that it's going to cure your hangover or your impotence, your inability to get an erection. The big problem with no tax on tips. This is from Vox.com, by the way. This is an opinion piece from Vox by Eric Levitz. This is one of the most, and I reported on this morning, but I had to bring it up again because it's just so confusing to me. The left has managed to work itself into such a Trump derangement syndrome corner that they're now prioritizing maintaining taxes on tips for people who are in the working class. So if you're working at a restaurant you're making sub-minimum wage, but you also get tips, so you get more money. And so they want to take that money from you. Yeah, you should serve them the fucking burger and be happy and pleased with the fact that you then have to serve Uncle Sam a bunch of money after having served the burger. Or you're a maid or something like that. You're in basically a service industry. Apparently, by the way, I was wrong this morning. Thank you. A subscriber sent me a tip that actually, according to the U.S. Treasury, guess what? More than half of my income is non-taxable now. This is really great news to me, by the way. I'm going to be saving a lot of money next year, I have a feeling. It's up to, I think it was up to 150K or thereabouts, if it's derived from what would be conceived of as tipping. So, super chats, like some of you are giving me now, Rumble rants, they're no longer taxable, apparently. My books would be taxable. Ad revenue, I'd have to look into it. I'll have to talk with an accountant or something like that. I'm not sure whether it would be or not. Same with sponsorship deals. But the super chats and Rumble rants, nope, they're no longer taxable because it's under the threshold. This is really, really great for me. And by great, I mean like spectacular. So thank you, Donald. You have once again triumphed. I was wrong this morning. Apparently it does extend to the self-employed income of people that are doing independent content creation. This is a huge boon. This is monumental. I mean, I don't even know how much I'm going to save on this. It'll put me out of that upper bracket and put me down in the lower one, and then the rest of my income will probably be taxed less too. So, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I am extremely happy having heard that. Donald can't stop winning. I have my problems with some of his policies. This is certainly not one of them. I believe that tips should not be taxed. The average person who's getting tips, really, how much money are they lending to the economy in getting tips? And in the past, of course, they didn't have to file it because it was usually in cash anyway. So, they just scoop up that 10 spot and put it in their apron and, you're good to go. You got $10, you don't pay taxes on it. I think that taxes should be eliminated as much as possible, both at the federal and state level, as well as on the individual level. I think people need to get together into syndicates, do cash-only transactions, ignore all the digital bullshit, because, of course, tips now are lodged as far as the digital revolution goes. You get those little pads in stores and restaurants and stuff. Sign your name and then you can add a tip and stuff. I don't think that should be taxed. No, I don't want to tax. As somebody who makes like $35K a year, they get a small amount of money actually at their job. Most of it is in tips. The hope is that they're working hard, they're doing well, they're giving good service, so they get good tips. That's the whole point. It's hospitality. It's called giving a shit. They give a shit about giving a good service, and you give a shit about rewarding them for that service. I tend to be a very, very good tipper, by the way. If I walk into your restaurant, don't worry. You really have to fuck up to get less than that 20%. You're probably going to get more than that if the food is good and the service is good and you're friendly. You're probably going to get considerably more than that. It's just a habit of mine. I figure, I've got the money to do the tipping, and it was good service, good food. Fucking give them a good tip. I believe in good tipping. I know that some people are bitter about it, and they're like, well, I never leave a tip, ha ha ha. Well, if you're going to go to that place more than one time, that's probably not a good idea. If you're going to go to the place a second time, you want spit in your food? That's the way to get it. Maybe you're into that. Some fetishists probably deliberately undertip just in order to get some dude to spit in their food. I'm sure there's at least one pervert out there that actually does this. Nothing surprises me under the sun. But I tend to tip well because these people work hard. And they're, doing their job and so forth. They're not getting even minimum wage in many cases. Give them a decent tip. Brightens their day. It's fun. Copium Poppies. Nice try, Sticks. Super chats aren't tips. They're advertising revenue. Speaking of, buy our album, Sybil the Soothsayer, available at copiumpoppies.com/pages/music. Actually, you are wrong. Lemon curd 0 sticks. Come on by Lemon's Restaurant and Yard Sale Emporium and tip to your heart's content. If that's actually a real place, I probably would, I would absolutely like to meet up and eat your food. I'm assuming it's a joke, but you never know. Cam2425IA, just the tip. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So eliminate taxes on tips. Trump is right to do that. The fact that a leftoid, because they're always talking about, we're for the working class, we're for the little guy. Okay, so then you want to tax him more. Great way, by the way, to get him to vote for you. Every restaurant worker in the fucking country is going to vote Republican in the next election cycle. You think they're going to vote for the Democrats after you're coming out and explicitly saying you want to steal their money from them? I love it. Tax evasion is great. I don't do it because I'm phobic, but I think if you evade taxes, good. Yeah, government doesn't need it as much as you anyway. If you can get away with it or think you can get away with it, I support tax evasion. Abso-fucking-lutely. I think it's a wonderful idea. Fuck the government. What are they going to do with that money? Bomb people. They're going to use it for uplifting the poor. We've already seen that problem. They're going to spend it on illegal immigrants and bombing people. That's basically their priority. Thankfully, things are moving in the right direction, but it's going to take a lot of time for that to be solved. Kathleen Green, enjoy some tax-free shekels on me sticks. That's what I'm talking about. Sabri Iran, to play devil's advocate, what is your thoughts on almost everything asking for a tip now? Some things I can understand, but I think it's starting to get out of hand, and I'm also a good tipper, but still. I think if it's strictly a service industry sort of thing, so restaurant, maid, haircut, something like that, I tip well. If they're asking me for a tip just because, I bought a sandwich that was pre-made anyway, no, I don't give a tip for that. I don't believe in tipping in those cases. If somebody is clearly getting a living wage, then no tip needed. If they're basically reliant on tips for their wage, I give a good tip. Like if I get a delivery, like let's say I have somebody deliver a couple of pizzas. If it comes on time and it's hot and fresh and so forth, I will tip them well. And so I know that there are multiple people in the city of Rutland, for example, that know full well when they see my address come up, they're getting a good tip. And so they go out of their way to make it quickly. They go out of their way to make sure that it's good and delivered on time and so forth. That's all you have to do. A little bit of respect goes a long way. King of Biltong, we are moving to our new premises at the end of September. Please support us through this final push with some Biltong purchases if you can. And you should, by the way. www.biltongusa.com. Code STICKS for 10% off. It's a good idea. You should get some Wagyu. Trust me. You put that in soup, oh man, it melts because it's mostly fat. It's delicious. All buttery and amazing. Melt that into a soup? Oh boy. Yeah, you're getting laid tonight if you serve that to you, little lady. Copium poppies. I'll tip at Subway if they do well. My order is ultra specific and takes skill to get right. Subway, you don't really need to tip. That's not really a tipping service. And you can, but the local Wendigo. By the way, Wendigos apparently have become a fad among the young. My niece actually has a mask that she's having. My mom is helping to convert it into a Wendigo mask with antlers and everything for Halloween. Apparently that's a thing among the young. Can anyone confirm this, please? Please explain this Wendigo thing to me. I'm not going to tip a self-checkout when buying stuff at the store. Just give me my vodka and instant noodles. Yeah, I mean, if it's a self-checkout, you don't need a tip. Meisner Flux. A recent study showed that a number of trees planted would offset CO2 emissions. I guess it's harder to tax and grift off, so simple a fix. Incentives for civilian action ought to be given. Yeah, just plant trees and stuff. That's all you gotta do. Mike the Wop, I only make 60K a year. Far too less to be able to purchase the biltong. I would probably need 100K to comfortably purchase at those prices. I can get you some biltong if you want. Green Text Pro, reminder, government doesn't actually use tax revenue to pay for shit. Income tax forces you to be paid in their monopolized currency. It's simple to enforce their authoritarian socialism. True. Copium poppies, I know, but if they get my sandwich right and don't give me attitude, they earn their tip. I don't order the basic bitch sandwiches. There is a secret menu at Subway, by the way. If you're into it, you can get a veggie patties, actually, on your sandwich. Tried them once. They're pretty good, actually. But I don't generally do, like, the vegetarian meat substitute thing. It's not healthy. Once in a while, it's okay, but yeah. Give me my real meat. Give me an Italian BMT or a fucking meatball sub. Okay? Just saying. Know what I'm saying? Aight then. Give me that fucking meatball sub. No cheese, by the way. But you have some lettuce and chipotle sauce on it. That's the way to do it. That's the way to take a meatball sub. In fact, actually, that made me hungry even thinking of it. Yeah. America first. Rubio and Trump just drew a red line for narco-terrorists. President Trump is the first American leader to construct a policy framework for direct military operations against cartels. I love it when the leftoids complain that this is an act of war, it's terrible, oh my god, you killed people without due process. Okie dokie then. Let's examine the facts. Number one, it was your political party and ideology that caused the problem in the first place. You've got both a tough-on-crime stance, like look at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, by the way. Joe Biden, 94 crime bill, the tough-on-crime bill. That was he was the architect of it. Kamala Harris, wanton prosecutor in California, going after people under the 3 strikes rule for basic drug possession. Oh my god, you've got an ounce 0.1 of weed instead of under 1 ounce? You're a felon now. Oh, sorry, you smoked weed. We're putting you in prison for the next 10 years. These were the people that orchestrated the goddamn problem. They created a drug war suppressing domestic production, then left the border wide open. Well, drugs are in demand. I hate to tell you, kids. But the adults in your life, a lot of them use drugs. That's just the way that it is. They're going to use them. They drink, they smoke, they do drugs, they do things like that. Most of them do, at least one of those 3. And so, if you have a tough-on-crime domestic policy and an open borders policy at the same time, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? This has become necessary, unfortunately, because of the missteps of past administrations. Trump partially put the genie back in the bottle in his first term, but was, partially unsuccessful. Didn't have long enough to really do anything about it. Now he's making it serious. He's saying, look, if you try to run drugs in the country, we're just going to bullseye you. We're just going to kill you. So you probably shouldn't bother trying, because we've got a dozen F-35s now stationed in Puerto Rico, and we know where you are, and it's not difficult to find out, and we'll just kill you. I think this is a good thing. It will dissuade those imports, thus driving up the domestic market too, which will be really, really great. I think there's no problem with people like growing and selling weed, trading drugs, using drugs, as long as they're not watching children or like an elderly relative. They're not watching someone incapable of taking care of themselves, and they're not on the road or something like that. I don't really care. I do not care if a person smokes. If I saw the neighbor smoking crack in the front lawn, you think I'm going to say anything? I don't give a shit. They're sitting there smoking their crack. Makes absolutely no difference. Oh, smoking weed? Oh, what a terrible sin. Nobody's ever done that before. More than half the population has at least tried weed. It's really not that much. It's less intoxicating than alcohol, that's for sure. Bobby Bobbinson, prison time for sticks. That will not happen. Copium poppies. The sandwich I get is a meatball sub, but I have them do it in a very specific way. You'd probably like it, Sticks. I must know how you have yours. With mine, meatballs have no cheese, toasted bread. I prefer the herby one, by the way. And then a little bit of lettuce and a bit of chipotle sauce. That's the way to get a meatball sub. That's the Sticks Hexen meatball sub. Throw Sticks in prison now! Hey, I'd be able to beat up with my old buddies, maybe. It'd be funny more than anything. No, don't worry, I'm not actually going to prison. Antarctic lake microbes have flexible survival strategies. Yes, apparently, back in 2013, they managed to sample water from under the Antarctic glaciers, ice sheets. And they had each milliliter of the lake's water contained 130,000 living cells. There's a lot more life down there than people, I think, originally reckoned. I remember it was only, 2 years ago, I think, they were drilling through the ice, and they ended up in one of those glacial lake pockets, basically. And they found there's a huge number of fish down there, actually. Again, genetically separate from the outside world because of their geologic zone. And they were surprised to find, so much life down there. They figured, well, it's basically pitch black. There's no energy entering the system. Well, the energy is entering the system. This is caused by microbes, by bacteria. And so that filters out into, life forms of other kinds, and then is eaten by fish and other small animals. And so it's actually like basically a safari park underneath a mile of Antarctic sheet ice, actually. And this was not known before. Before, the idea was basically it was bleak. There was not really anything going on there. They found out different. It would be possible, for example, for a person properly equipped with the right tools and the right training to get up under the ice sheet in Antarctica and survive for a protracted period of time under there. Yeah, you'd probably want a generator and a ventilation system, but other than that, you can relax. You've got a million fish around you and all sorts of other stuff, kelp, non-photosynthetic life forms that would resemble plants. They're all down there. And plenty of bacteria, apparently. But now, for the new study, scientists with the Korea Polar Research Institute in Cheon isolated 1,374 microbial cells and pieced together each organism's genome. Analyses of the genomes revealed a major surprise. Microbes that had seemed familiar based on single gene barcoding suddenly looked a lot more unique when their entire genome was unveiled. That ended a long-held speculation that maybe these microbes had gotten into lakes when seawater intruded under the ice sheet only 6,000 years ago. Instead, the data show the microbes had to have been living there a lot longer. This is a separate evolutionary... This is extremely important science news. I'll lay it out. For those that don't realize the significance of this, effectively what you're saying is that some of these microbial species may have been evolving in isolation for millions and millions of years, completely separate from the outside world, because they had no connection with the outside world. And the lakes underneath the Antarctic are basically like a soup. Basically like a bacterial soup or something. Pretty funny when you think about it. Copium, we'll DM the way I get it later. Too long for character limit. The local Wendigo. I think Wendigos are popular with paranormal stories on 4chan. Huh. I don't know. Huh. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm eagerly looking forward to the meatball recipe. In fact, maybe I'll get a meatball sub at Subway soon. They do actually have good meatball subs, but they do not compare to D'Angelo's. If you can get a meatball sub at D'Angelo's, that's the real shit. That fondly reminds me. Anytime that I talk about meatball subs, I'm instantly reminded of that one time when we were over in Brattleboro visiting my grandmother, actually, at the time, my dad's mother. And the two of us went out to eat. And we went to D'Angelo's. And I can't remember what he got, but I got a meatball sub, a foot long, of course. You're a starving 12-year-old. You're going to eat the whole sub. Don't even get me started on that one time at the Keen Buffet when I was 15, or else I'll recount the whole fucking story. But I started smashing it into my face. And I ate half of that shit before my dad had even finished his first bite. He looked disgusted. He's like, Charles, stop that. Cut it out. Because I was just plowing it down like a monster. And, that was the best meatball sub, by the way, that I ever had. Way better than Subway. Subway does good. But D'Angelo's is the best. I've made meatball subs a couple times. I make them competently, but whatever D'Angelo's puts in them, it's like crack. They're superior to my meatball subs. And so I was like literally stuffing it down, like barely even chewing it. It was just so tasty. It was hilarious. Bobby, how was the poop afterwards, Sticks? I believe relatively normal, actually. But yeah, I took that foot long, slid it in my mouth. All of that juicy meat. Yeah. Copium Poppies. Today I found out Jack Osborne has a paranormal podcast. Oh, I didn't know that. Pistones. It hits the spot, the meatball sub. Yeah, Subway has good meatball subs, but D'Angelo's has it better. If there is a D'Angelo's in your area, in fact, is there a D'Angelo's anywhere near me? D'Angelo grilled sandwiches. Might be up in Burlington. Let's see. No, the closest ones appear to all be in, well, Concord, New Hampshire. That's not terribly far, I guess. Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut. Damn, they don't have any locations in Vermont? What the fuck am I supposed to do with my life? Yeah, they're all throughout New England except in Vermont. Wow, lucky me. I don't even think the one in Hanover, the Hanover, Lebanon region, I don't even think that one's actually open. Damn it. Well, I guess I'll have to travel to get another one of those meatball subs. I'll try to record myself smashing it down my throat. Debbie Donovan, I hear meatballs and think of Bill Murray. It just doesn't matter. Scene. Hilarious. Never seen that. Girl of the Valley is apparently ejaculating again. This happens all the time. Yeah, I wish I had a meatball sub right now, actually. I'm actually hungry. I made a tomato basil soup the other day, with grilled cheese, by the way, and, of course, you must use Munster. And then we had corn chowder that my dad made, which was really, really good, by the way. I put some of that one. Who's messaging me? I put one of those seasonings in it. It was pretty good. Okay, well, you can wait until after I'm not live anymore. I normally do. My mom and dad having a loud conversation out there. Bobby, everyone is pleasuring themselves to Sticks at the same time. You being probably one of them. You're just waiting to see my feet. Yeah, I think I want to go to a New Hampshire D'Angelo's. They were always the best. They used to have actually an outlet in the mall here in Rutland, but the mall is closed. I got a picture, actually. Maybe I'll post it on Twitter later if I can find it. The mall was virtually empty. It was very, very sad because I can remember a time when the Diamond Run Mall, you'd have ads on TV, and especially around holidays, it would be packed. And they had a D'Angelo's, which was good, and then they had a Chinese restaurant and a bunch of other stuff, and it slowly crepitated away into nothingness. And so now we don't have them all. You have to go up to Burlington. I don't know why you'd want to at this point, though. Copium Poppies, get your parents on the show. No, I had my dad on one video where he said that the Pope should be deposed and so forth. That was pretty funny. Turtle's Toy Box, Sticks, you should make some Vampira and Bloods recipes. They're vampires like you. Vampira and Bloods. Let me look that up. It's a TikTok, yeah. Fuck TikTok and people who use Facebook. Fuck all of them. No thanks. No offense. I will not use TikTok and I do not use Facebook. Copium Poppies, get your dad on. He's busy right now. Yeah, we used to have a pretty decent mall. I mean, for a small town, it was pretty good. And there were all sorts of kiosks and stuff like that during the holiday season. And it would get jam-packed. When the Great Recession hit, half of the businesses basically folded. And so basically towards the end you had the candy shop, which also has a location in the downtown. They're still down there. You had Old Navy, Sears, they went out of business. Kmart at the other end went out of business. So the two big box stores, they were gone. And everything else sort of dried up. I think there was a Hot Topic for a little while. They died before the Great Recession even happened. And then there was can't remember. There was a Victoria's Secret for a while, but then they folded. So basically, it was you go to Old Navy, and there was nothing in the food court, by the way. They had like a vendor that sold smoothies for a little while, for several years before the mall closed entirely. Basically, you could get a smoothie and go to Old Navy and then get some candy. That was the only thing that you could do. And there was like one computer store or something like that. That was all that was left in the mall. It wasn't enough to justify even having the mall there. Personally, I think that they should open it up and use it as like a paintball range or something. All of the stores have like shelving and stuff like that, and then you go in there, you pay your $5 for an entrance fee, and you go in there and play paintball guns or something like that. That'd be funny. Bobby, the quartering is not doing well. He's spiraling right now, and he's blaming you for it partly. I haven't seen anything about this. I can talk to him if he's having problems. I'm there for him. Dude, the dude had my back in a big way, so, one good turn deserves another, nah. I have a feeling that there are a bunch of people who just really want me to lash out at the quartering. It's like, he got me out of jail. Yeah, I don't think that I want to fuck with the dude. And if he's having a problem, then I'll talk to him about it, see what I can do, if I can do anything. I like the quartering. I like the programming. I like his attitude. He never did me any harm. He did me one hell of a solid, dude. Copium. Old males should be soundproof the stores and rent out spaces to bands to practice and throw DIY shows. That would actually be a good idea. Yeah, you could have you could have at one end you have a concert venue, then you have some of the shops. Some of them would be perfectly fine. You could even have the farmers market in the mall when you think about it. It's got enough space. Have that in the center, and then you have a couple of box stores. You'd have to lower the price, but I mean, even if you're marketing at barely return, it would be more cost effective than demolishing the shit. It would make more sense, wouldn't it? Ramon C. GTC, how about apartments and entertainment at Old Mall? I don't think you could really turn it into apartments. You could try. You could turn it into a hospital, I suppose. It would have the right layout and, you know. Mike the Watt, Ponderosa sounds familiar. I hate Ponderosa. We had one here in Rutland. In fact, it was literally right outside of the mall on the corner there on Main Street. And I wasn't a fan. No. The closest thing that I had to that was actually good was when I was in southern Texas. There was like a steakhouse down there, and oh boy, was the food fucking good. Oh, the Texans know their steak, that's for sure. I had several steaks. I had piles of yummy mashed potatoes and green beans and all of these things. I think I had fried okra as well. And, all sorts of like southern, home style foods. And it was delicious. But I'm not a huge fan of the Ponderosa. Ramon C. GTC, Golden Corral. They were alright. Yeah, Golden Corral was alright, but it was just alright. It's like basically the Applebee's of the food world. Matt Barnes, we always called it Ponderosa. B-list history. Hey, Sticks. Jeremy said he's going to buy a ton of dynamite from the Acme store and put it in a wooden crate and paint biltong on the side in white paint and leave it outside your house. Watch out. That would be so fucking funny. Biltong was mentioned. It is a channel tradition. We must. Thankfully, I've got a full one over there, so this one's running a little bit low, so it won't last very long. God, it's good in soup. Again, you've got to try this. You've got to try Bovrite in a soup. Just trust me. Just a tablespoon of it. You put it in the soup and simmer it into the broth. You'll thank me later. Bobby, see Sticks? Someone else sees what Jeremy is saying about you. I'll check in on him, actually. If he's having a rough time and needs someone to talk to or something like that, I'm always ears, That's the sort of thing. He did me one hell of a favor. And he didn't have to do that, by the way. So, yeah, I've got his back. I owe him one, quite literally. I believe in repaying your debts. Copium Poppies. I was saying when movie theaters were closing during COVID is that someone should buy up movie theaters and hold multiple concerts at once, already built for sound, and have the big projector screens. Yeah. Also, they should definitely do Rocky Horror Nights, at least once a week. Should be mandatory for every theater. Every week, on the weekends, on a Sunday night or something, you have to have Rocky Horror Picture Show. At midnight. I think I'll be watching that later, actually. And by the way, when the Rocky Horror Picture Show is showing, yes, I will make toast, and I will throw it at the computer screen. Yes, I will do the time warp. And yes, I will collapse in a heap at the end of the song. It's a full fan experience. I would absolutely love to do that like at an actual theater. Like I'm hoping there's no theater in Rutland anymore, but I guess in Burlington maybe there's one. If they have a Rocky Horror Night, I might decide to go. I think that I'll fit in if I do my full pirate gear. Yeah, Cam 2425IA, Tim Curry. By the way, Tim Curry, and not everyone knows this, I didn't know this until more recently, was also the voice of Hexus, one of the most terrifying goddamn villains in all of cartoon history, actually. Copium poppies. Nah, just one theater in each town. Don't want to flood the market. Yeah, Rutland doesn't have any theater anymore. Used to be that right on the corner between Walmart and Price Chopper, there was a theater. And, they had some good shit. But theaters really can't pan out these days. There's kind of a dying brand because everything's online. And so, you just download, legally or illegally, the movies that you want to watch, and then, you watch them on a computer, basically. It's kind of sad, but at the same time, it's like, it doesn't really make sense to have the theater experience because you're not getting anything you can't literally get from a 4K screen anyway. So what the fuck is the point? Yeah, Tim Curry was Hexus, actually. You know that demon that possesses the machine in that, fuck was the movie called? I'm drawing a blank. I'm having a Joe Biden moment. Yeah, what was the fucking... Yeah, Fern Gully. I should have remembered that. Yeah, he was the voice of Hexus, and that was absolutely terrifying as a kid. Copium. Tim Curry also briefly voiced Palpatine in Clone Wars. Oh, I didn't know that. Huh. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. I've never actually watched the Clone Wars cartoons. I've heard nothing but positive evaluations about it, but I've never gotten a chance to actually sit down and watch it. Yeah, Tim Curry is one of the best. Not true. They don't usually release movies online simultaneously as theaters. True. Concentrated juice. Why go to see a movie when you can't hear it over a black couple? Kraken Joker. Was Fern Gully the movie where the death row inmate comes back to life and kills people through their computers or something? I forgot the plot now because it was so old. No, this was a cartoon movie, and this dude basically gets shrunken to the size of like a fairy and ends up, sort of semi-romantically involved with this female fairy. And they end up trying to save their fairy civilization against this evil demon called Hexus, who is released from an evil tree that's filled with evil and poison. They're cutting it down for wood, actually. And he takes over the machine and then uses it to try to oppress and destroy the fairy colony more than anything. And yeah, the music in there is great. Here, let me try to find that. I'll post this really quickly. Yeah, Toxic Love. That's the name of the song. Yeah, Toxic Love is great. Yeah, this was so creepy as a kid. Yeah, I'm gonna post it here and here. B-list history. Jeremy said he's gonna put a jar of Vermont organic pickles underneath a 10-ton anvil held by a chintzy rope and pulley system. Watch out! I'd grab it anyway. Give me those pickles. The local Wendigo, just casually showing kids war crimes in the Clone Wars. It was great. Copium Bobby's Clone Wars retroactively made the prequels good. George Lucas was smart to do that. Yeah, I've heard nothing but positive things about the Clone Wars cartoon. Chris from Michigan. I watch the quartering fairly regularly. Never heard him say anything negative about you. Ignore the drama makers. Love you, Sticks. Thank you. Yeah, no, I figure that it's mostly like, it's troll bait. I figure that it's usually bullshit. And in the case that he does say anything about me, that's all good. I don't care. Steve Duke. Oh yeah, I burn styrofoam after watching that. They propagate. I rebel instantly. Keep it up. I will ruin the atmosphere. I don't care. Yeah, Bobby, unless you can clip that out and actually show me evidence that the quartering was insulting me or something, I'm going to ignore it. Just saying. I require proof. Even then, I don't give a shit. Tarred and Feathered is poking me repeatedly. Oh my god. Ah, real European patriot. Finally, the reasoning is clear. Sticks, you need to make peace with the Kino Casino. You need to call out the fat quarter pounder and his grift. Ah, that's what it's about. It's the Kino people trying to put me at odds with Jeremy to start drama so that they can put it on their show. I'm not particularly surprised at this. Well, they can fuck themselves. That's what I have to say. Go fuck yourself. I actually have standards, unlike some people. No, Hazelra sticks are for poking. Poke, poke. Oh, by the way, maple syrup does go in coffee. I put just the smallest drizzle in the coffee because I don't really like sweet things, so I don't want it to be too sweet. And it actually came out good. And this, where was this made? I'm not sure if it's from Vermont or Canada, or I'm not 100% sure, actually. It's kind of crystallized on the side. Copium, if you decide to binge watch Clone Wars, and you should, make sure to get a list of the episodes in chronological order so you can watch them like that. They didn't release them in chronological order. Oh, that's odd. Green Text Pro, Sticks, Jeremy said he's going to open a D'Angelo's franchise in Rutland and take a big fat shit in every meatball sub. Warning! If he opened a D'Angelo's franchise and didn't shit in the subs, I'd be eating there at least once a week. Turtle's Toy Box. Quartering said he was in bad luck because of associating with evil wizards. He meant you, Sticks. Who else could he have been talking about? Yeah, again, I'm going to need proof that anything like that was ever actually said. My assumption is that because there's a significant overlap between my audience and the Quartering's audience, that if something like that were said, I would have gotten a DM with a clip by now. And if you do have a clip, you can always link me. It's as simple as that. You clip it out, if it's so important to you. But I will deny its existence until confronted with evidence that it actually exists. I have a feeling it's more people trying to cause shit. Just saying. I don't agree with everything the Quartering has to say, but it's like, you know, number one, he's got the right to say it. It's his fucking channel. And number two, he's never done anything wrong to me. He had every right to cut me from the show. You know, he had to foreshorten things because he made a major investment and couldn't pay everyone the amount that they were due. So he cut a few people loose in order to save money. What's wrong with that? I would do the same thing. Misner Flux saw a huge Timcast IRL digital billboard on I-480 in Cleveland, sharing with other ads the pirate hat would get more attention than beanie. Just saying. Yes, that is one thing that would be funny. We're going to try to get Tim Pool to wear a tricorner hat. That would be very, very fun. We're gonna make more pirates. I got this dude actually at one of the local gas stations, and he thought that the hat was great. And he was like asking where he could get one and what it was called and stuff like that. I think I might end up showing up there to buy some General Tso's chicken, which by the way is really good at that gas station, and find him wearing a pirate hat. So I think that I have started another trend. Tarred and feathered, what is the yellow leaf doing in the back of the Styx hat? That is a sparrow feather, because I'm Crack Sparrow. That's my new moniker, Crack Sparrow. Nateo, sometimes gas station food hits the spot. Yeah, it's weird, because normally gas station food is like retarded. But the local Tennybrook, actually, their General Tso's chicken is the best General Tso's chicken I've ever tasted. It's amazing. Real European Patriot, what do you think about Nick Fuentes and his betrayal of MAGA? Is he a fed or just retarded? Yeah. I have mixed feelings on this one. I like Nick Fuentes, actually. I like his content. I do not believe that he's a fed or anything like that. I do believe that he is wrong with regards to populism. I think that he's fallen into the same trap that a lot of people have. What they expect is Donald Trump is going to magically wave his hand. Every problem that they have will magically go away. Globalism ends immediately, etc. They expect him to be God Emperor. When they realize the sad truth, which is that he can't be God Emperor, there are constraints on his capabilities. He's not an emperor at all. He's simply the chief executive. That's the way that the United States was founded. Then they get pissed off. They get pissed off because they think, why is he waiting so long to exact this border policy? Why is he waiting so long for this form of tax relief? Not realizing, generally speaking, Congress has to get involved. And congressional Republicans have been very, very much dragging their heels on pretty much everything. They've been doing this for years. You hand them a victory. They won't take it. They'll shove it back in your face and say, no, we want to lose. This is why Donald Trump is more effective, because he doesn't do that sort of thing. The problem is he still needs the will of Congress for some of the things that he wants to exact. It sort of depends. In some things, he can just do an EO, and that's perfectly fine, but not on everything. That's basically what's happening. Copium Poppies. Tim Pool platformed all the binder waivers who helped cover for F-Team clients. Saw all of them on Timcast at some point and still has some on. Oh yeah, there was one other thing that I was going to cover. What was it? Oh, this is going to be funny. I'll probably make a standalone video tomorrow about it too. Let me see. Oh yeah. Christie says Robert F. Kennedy Jr. should not be leading public health in America and calls him a joke. I sat there for a moment and I started chuckling. Then I started guffawing. Christie is giving health advice to Americans now. The dude who weighs 450 plus pounds, as opposed to RFK Jr., who, at the very least, he can still, lift weights and shit like that. He's gonna give you health advice. when I saw it, I'm like, imagine Chris Christie's health clinic or something like that. You go to his barbecue, and you've eaten a couple of hot dogs. And you're like, wow, I'm full, ate some hot dogs. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're supposed to eat 6 or more. I'm going to kick you out if you don't eat 4 more hot dogs. That would be Chris Christie's health advice. You know, you need to put more dressing on that salad. By the way, our triple cheeseburgers are really good. Dude, Chris Christie, I mean, small objects orbit him. So it's hilarious to see him complain about RFK Jr. misleading people. His basic premise is, well, RFK Jr. is going to get people killed. He's going to make them less healthy. Chris, my man. Chris, here, wake up. Hey, dude, you're not healthy. You weigh almost 500 pounds. When you're on the beach, nobody else gets any sun. At what point do we say this is just batshit ridiculous? Oh my god, it was hilarious. This is a leading report originally. Breaking, Chris Christie says Robert F. Kennedy Jr. should not be leading public health in America and calls him a joke. Chris, you are the joke. I mean, I don't have to say anything further to make it funny because just the headline itself it's a joke that writes itself. Chris Christie! Telling you how to, telling you your dietary needs. He probably, he doesn't like the old food pyramid either because it didn't have enough carbs in it. Had too many fucking vegetables. He's like, no, vegetables should be at the top. Use sparingly. And the sweets, they can, 2 to 3 servings a day. Kobe and Poppies. Who would win if we made them fight? Chris Christie, Randy Fine, or Heart Attack? I think that's Heart Attack. Green Text Pro. When Chris Christie does a sit-up, it's because he's reaching for a donut on the couch. Yeah, I mean, this was one of the funniest things that I've ever seen. It's like, I mean, if somebody who is, relatively normal in weight and everything like that, they're, average or skinny or something like that, if they weigh in and say, RFK Jr. is a conspiracy theorist, I mean, they're wrong, but if they say that as something, at the very least, you can say, okay, well, this person at the very least is displaying the fact that they're reasonably healthy. But when Chris Christie does it, can any person in the world competently debate me on the topic of whether Chris Christie is healthy? I don't think so. I think it's a 100% chance that everybody believes that Chris Christie's not healthy. No, when you go out of bed, it registers on the Richter scale. And you've got small objects orbiting you like little moons, and that becomes a problem. Thankfully, some of them are edible, so you can always grab one of those and, have a little snack. Yeah, that banana is looking awfully good. Yep. Yeah. There we go. And shoves it in his mouth. That's basically Chris Christie's lifestyle. What I would like to do is get one of those things going. Some of you may have seen the movie Nothing But Trouble. And there's one scene in the movie where there's like sausages and weird shit like on a little train that's going around a table. And, he's just eating them all. It'd be funny to load something up like that with all sorts of weird hors d'oeuvres and then sit Chris Christie down and see how long the food lasts. Probably not very long. He's like, oh, that was barely a snack, dude. Oh, yeah. Mr. Buster Pants, Chris Christie is a sphere. Yeah, you're lecturing RFK Jr. on health concepts? RFK Jr. is in his 70s. He's pretty stacked for a person who's 71. He's in very good shape. He's definitely taking care of his body. I realize his voice has that tremble in it. That's due to a secondary condition. It has nothing to do with his overall health. But overall, physically speaking, you can't deny that RFK Jr., for a person who's 71, is in pretty goddamn good shape. Chris Christie is almost a decade younger. He's not in good shape, and he hasn't been for a very long time. The fact that he's still alive, honestly is incredible, since he weighs about 500 pounds, and that's not an exaggeration. The dude is a rolling lump of lard. He should not be talking about this sort of thing, and it's clear why he did that. He did that to get attention. He knew that this would stoke attention. Oh, this legendarily fat dude who, again, when he walks, it registers on the Richter scale, is lecturing RFK Jr. on health issues. Oh, he did it on purpose. Of course he did. And it was funny. By the way, to Green Text Pro, I don't think Christie can do a sit-up. I mean, normally, you put your hands by your head, and you sit up. How are you supposed to do that when your belly's out here? It's going to be, a little bit difficult. Mike the Womp, RFK Jr. has spasmodic dysphonia. It's just his brain sending the incorrect signals to the muscles in his throat, causing him to quiver. His sister has it too, I think. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. And he's still more coherent than Christie by far. Copium poppies. Actually, you're wrong. That was a trick question. Heart attack. Christie nor Randy Fine will win. Diabetes will come in with a folding chair and kick off their fat asses. That reminds me, last night I was watching some Wilford Brimley soundboard prank calls. If you haven't seen those, do that. Drunk Bail Bonge, Stillwell Grandma. Just trust me on these things. Frank Garrett, if you haven't heard it. Rick the Mullet Man. Angry Black Dude. Irate Black Guy. Springfield Pervert. Go down this rabbit hole. You'll be busy for a while, because there's hundreds of thousands of calls. Copium poppies, your damn typos. Snakes bleed red. Can you do a pull-up? Yes, I can. I'm a skinny bitch. I don't weigh much, so it doesn't take much muscle power in order to do one. Yeah, Christie, I mean, if you manage to knock him over, it'll take him so long to get up, then the fight would be over then. At least with RFK Jr., I mean, he can actually pump the weights. Physically speaking, he's in good shape. Obviously, a good idea. Can you imagine Christie as health secretary or something like that? That would be like, what was that really big fat woman? I think it was in the Netherlands, actually, she was health secretary. Was it the Netherlands or one of the Scandinavian countries? Or was it Denmark, actually, maybe? There was this, extremely obese woman, and she was health secretary? I can't remember who it was. She was a little bit overweight is one thing, but she was like a giant beach ball, basically. Oh, it was Belgium. Yeah, Belgium, yeah. Yeah, the Belgian health minister was like this enormously fat lady. It's like, well, I guess chocolate really is your national dish. You've certainly been eating plenty of it. Yeah, I don't know how much she weighs, but I don't even know if she's still alive. Vexed Peril. A deeply forgettable whammon. Yeah, that was a huge meme for a while there. Like, when the thing that you're most known for is being violently unhealthy, that's probably an indicator that you should change your diet and exercise routine. It would be funny. Get her and Christie into a mud pit and have them do a fight, do some sumo wrestling. That would be fucking funny. Lemon Curd Zero, have you slept on a map of Belgium? It's smaller than France. Yes, it's about the same size as the Netherlands. Never been to Belgium, actually. I mean, I was obviously in the Netherlands, visited Germany a couple of times. Never got down to Belgium, though. I kind of wish that I had, though. Maybe in the future. I want to go to France, too. But the thing is, I want to go to southern France. I want to go to Gévaudan, actually, to learn more about the beast of Gévaudan more than anything else. By Jamie Hill Rubis. I exercise my right arm drinking beer and jacking off. All sorts of crazy shit today. Yeah, we got all sorts of good moves. Anyways, I'm going to go offline. I'm going to dock it for tomorrow and then start in writing, actually. Because I've almost completed the last section of the second volume of Morbid Stories. I'm over 120 pages in already, so I've been really flying through it. And it's going to be, I think, better than the first Morbid Stories, actually. This time, of course, I won't need a third edition because I'm already using the new quality format that I use. And a lot of it is way more edgy than the one before, so it's going to be even more violent and insane. So if you like violent and insane material, I would strongly recommend you get a copy of the third edition of Morbid Stories 1. It's available on my blog under my works. And also, you can eagerly await the only volume of the second edition, actually. It'll be fun. It'll be fucking hilarious. Yeah, get some violence up in you, boy. That's about all. Peace out.